And as you hold that thought at the forefront of your mind, with the deepest breath of the day, inhale in through the nose, exhaling out of the mouth, emptying out the lungs, making space for today's reflection and practice. Gently fluttering the eyes open. Take a moment of free movement, adjusting your seated position, stretching in a way that feels good for your body. And I will toss it over to you, John, to continue with the reflection before we hop into our flow.
All right, nice. Thank you, Tracy. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Good. Wow, that was a great intro and great setup. All right, good morning, everybody. Let's get my camera angle right here. All right, today is Sunday, August 8th. Our reflection today is titled, "What is your practice?" So, Tracy, that was a very good setup. So there's an African proverb that I want to share with you all, and it says, "No healing can take place until the spirit shows up." Again, short one, but no healing can take place until the spirit shows up. And if you guys would, if you're on mute, come off mute, because I love, to make this interactive. You guys, we're not gonna have a building front. We're not gonna pass the plate, but let's do a little bit of call and response if you feel so inclined, right? All right. So I bet we've all been part of this conversation, or we've heard these debates when people are saying, "Look, here's what I believe, here's what I believe," and there's these sort of debates about what's the right thing to believe. W3, I might need you on mute just because of the background.
No, that's why I'm going inside.
Okay, no worries. So, different religions, if you're Catholic, you believe one thing versus, if you're sort of a Southern Baptist, and then if you're a Muslim, you believe something different than, a Christian, and Christians believe something a little bit different than Jewish people. And sometimes these debates, we may have found ourselves in them, but they get sort of contentious even at times, right? So what's really interesting is that a Buddhist actually would not engage in any of these debates. A Buddhist would never even talk at all about what they believe. A Buddhist would only ask the question, what is your practice, right? Not so much what you believe or what I believe. What is your practice? Here's what my practice is. Here's what I do. Now, don't get me wrong. I think it's very important to work out the bedrock of your faith, what it is that you believe in, what you're believing on, what you stand on in terms of your faith. But the biggest thing that I think is really important for us to do is we have to convert our faith, what we believe, into practice, into our daily practice, right? And so, it can be anything from Tai Chi. That's, last week I talked about TJ Prince, who had been my therapist. That's what he taught me to do, sort of a moving meditation. It can be what we're doing now. It can be yoga. It can be meditation. It can be journaling. It can be skydiving, if that's your thing, whatever it is, but find a practice, right? So again, the question, what is your practice? And here's why it matters. Like the African proverb says, the miraculous good of healing cannot take place until the spirit shows up. Now, let's be real clear. There is always a spirit that is present, right? So there is a spirit present. Sometimes it's a spirit of lack, a spirit of frustration, a spirit of anger. But we got to ask the question, what is the right spirit to show up in order for us to get our good that is that's on its way to us? And so if it's not the right spirit, then what do we do in our lives to get ourselves into the right spirit for the healing to take place? Some of you guys know I listen to a lot of Tony Robbins. I've gone to some of his events and things like that. He uses the term state, like the emotional state that you're in. So he would say, are you in a resourceful state of energy? Are you in a joyful and fun state? Or are you in a groggy, lethargic state? Are you in a sort of jealous and envious, sort of lack, what is it, scarcity mindset kind of state? So what is the state that we're in, right? So when we see these African tribal dances, we see the people dance and they're very enthusiastic. And they have the entire, and they have a lot of energy, right? And it becomes contagious until they reach the point where the entire crowd is actually in that same state of heightened awareness, right? That same heightened energy state. And so what the proverb is saying is that there's a healing power in that heightened state of energy, right? And here's what I want to be very, very specific about and be very clear. The only way to experience that healing power that's available to us all the time is to get ourselves and those around us into that heightened level of energy, that heightened level of spirit, that heightened state. And here's the first thing I want to share with you all. We often think that the way we act is a reflection of how we feel, and that's true, but it's also a circular process, right? So we can actually alter the way we feel by the way we act. And that's really great news, because otherwise we would be at the mercy of a world that's really capricious, right? A world that's really fickle and can be vindictive and hurtful, especially to us as Black folk, right? So the question for us is, how do we make our spirit or our state less dependent on how someone on the outside or the outside world in general treats us, right? And so this, of course, like I said, is very important for Black people. Historically, we've been treated like the world wanted to make sure that we understood that everything about the American dream was not necessarily for us, right? To reflect back, this is a state we call orientation. Well, you know, we start off in a state of orientation, right? We're just coasting along. We're young. We're happy to be, you know, born into this great country. We're just psyched to be an American. And you don't really need much of a plan or a practice to maintain your positive heightened state when you're in that phase, right? But Mike Tyson has this great quote. This is what I love about Broga. We can pull wisdom from anywhere. So we're going to use a Mike Tyson quote today, right? He says, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. Yeah, I think you say you have a plan until you get punched in the mouth, right? And if you're Black in this country, then in the world, especially if the world sees you as a male, then you're going to, at some point, probably before your 12th birthday, have a very rude awakening, right? If we're honest with ourselves, that feels like being punched in the mouth. But what do you do with it? What do you do about it, right? So what is your practice? The reality is that we each need a solid practice that not only elevates us to a heightened state, but even further, we need a practice that gets us back to neutral in the face of the countless slings and arrows that we are all going to face on a regular basis, right? As an example, I think about my wife's practice with my daughter's hair, right? So we have, Miss Tucker, what's going on, lady? So we have a neighborhood pool, and like you would imagine, the neighborhood pool has a high level of chlorine. That's, you know, how you protect everybody in the pool, right? But that chlorine is very, very damaging and toxic, not only to your skin, but also to your hair. So as soon as we get home from the pool, we jump in the shower, wash all that chlorine off. But then my wife gets into this very detailed routine with my daughter's hair. She washes all that chlorine out. Then she puts some moisturizer in and some conditioner to start repairing the damage that chlorine did to her hair, right? And so we need a similar practice to that, because the metaphorical pools that we swim in every day are at least as toxic to us and our spirits as that chlorine in the pool is toxic to my daughter's hair, right? So again, what is your practice? The second thing I want to share with you all about the importance of our practice is that actions speak louder than words. So again, I'm really having fun with the sources of wisdom here today. So we're gonna get some wisdom from Diddy on this one, right? Don't talk about it, be about it, right? That the what we say is so much less important than the way we actually act. I identify as a Christian, or at least somebody who tries to live out the teachings of Jesus, right? But you'll never really hear me talk about that very much, because I believe if I gotta tell you I'm a Christian, then by definition, I'm not a very good one, right? I shouldn't have to tell you. There should be something about me that you say, I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on it, but there's something about John, right? Best example I can think of for this story about the Buddha. And many of you have maybe heard this story before, right? There's a woman who has a child, and her child has a medical diagnosis where he can't eat sugar. But the kid won't listen to the mom, won't listen to the doctors, and the only person that the kid will listen to is the Buddha, because the kid respects the Buddha that much. So the mom goes to see the Buddha, says, listen, this is a deal. My son can't eat sugar, but he keeps eating sugar anyway. He's literally putting his life at risk. Will you come talk to my son? The Buddha says, I got you. I'm going to come talk to your son, get him to stop eating sugar, right? Months go by, no word from the Buddha. The mom is like, she's freaking out, right? She's like, all right, let me go back and see him again. Buddha, I need you to come talk to my son. You're the only one he'll listen to. I need you to come talk to him to get him to stop eating sugar. The Buddha says, I will come and talk to your son. Again, months go by. The mom is really, really frustrated. She doesn't know what to do. Over a year passes from the initial conversation. The Buddha shows up in their village, has a conversation with the son, like a couple minutes. Son's like, hey, if the Buddha says I should stop eating sugar, I'm gonna stop eating sugar immediately, right? So the mom is incredibly relieved, but she's also a little bit frustrated. So as she's thanking the Buddha as he's leaving, she says, but you know, I don't understand. Why did it take you so long? You could have come a year ago when I first asked you. The Buddha said, listen, I couldn't come a year ago to have a conversation with your son about him stopping his sugar intake and him, you know, no longer eating sugar, because a year ago I was eating sugar. Don't talk about it, be about it, or at least be about it first. Then we can talk about it, right? So third thing I want to share with us today, this is the last point on our practice, in our conversation about the importance of our practice. And it's a quote from Henry David Thoreau, right? So we got a little Mike Tyson, we got a little Diddy, we got a little Thoreau, you know, nice balance, right? All right, so Thoreau said, if you have built castles in the air, your work need not be lost. That is where they should be. Now put the foundations under them. When people find out that I went to seminary, especially older Black people, the first question they ask me is, so can you preach? And that's all they want to know, right?
Are
so
you a hooper?
Can you hoop? That's really, that's what they really, really want to know, right? Can you entertain me, essentially? And I always chuckle a little. And I say, yeah, you know, I believe I can hold my own in a pulpit, but you know, I don't think I'll deliver my best sermons in a pulpit or from a pulpit. I think my best sermons will be the communities that I get to work with, the lives I get to touch. And I really believe that, right? I'll tell anybody, if you ask me what I believe about God, even after seminary, I still have a lot of question marks in areas where I'm still asking those questions myself, asking questions of myself. And I just had to get to a point in my life where I decided I'm going to do the work that I feel that my soul is called to while I'm working out my faith. And I was for years just very apprehensive about speaking about faith because I never wanted to be somebody who was talking about things that I didn't genuinely believe. But here's where I netted out. And this might be, you know, maybe more B school than seminary. Sometimes we just have to cast the vision for liberating our people from slavery and have faith that when we get to the Red Sea, God's going to either give us the wings to fly over the sea, God's going to part the sea, or maybe something's going to happen that we can't even imagine at this point. It might seem like it will take a miracle for our vision to come to fruition. And it might indeed take a miracle, but that's not our job. The miracle part is God's job to figure out. Our job is to do whatever we need to do to keep ourselves in the right physical, mental, and emotional state where we're ready for that, the spirit of the power beyond this world's understanding to show up in our lives, for the miracle to show up in our lives, for the healing to take place, not only in our lives, but in all the lives of those around us. And then we can say, like Mohandas K. Gandhi said, my life is my sermon. All right. All right, everybody, if you can stand up, let's get a little energy going. Let's do our intentions. We want to get back into we'll get back into movement. All right. Now, as is our custom, as we end our weekly reflections, I ask that you all join with me in this these intentions for our time together. We'll start off with the first one that's sort of our standard. And the way we're doing it now, I hope this is a little easier for everybody with the interaction. I'll say the intention, then I will say, this is our intention, and then you all respond.
And so it is.
So it is.
Our intention.
All right. All right. We're going to try to, we're going to get it. We're going to get some energy going. All right. Okay. All right. Let us be intentional that our Broga practice might be a living metaphor for our life practice. This is our intention.
And so it is. Our intention.
Our intention.
Nice, 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 nice. All right. Let us be intentional about prioritizing our practices of self-care, whether that's praying, meditating, working out, yoga, or anything else that we find helpful in getting us into the right emotional space to not only survive, but to thrive and allow the miracle working spirit to be present in our lives. Many of us were raised with a type of toxic masculinity that thinks tough guys just barrel through, right? But there's a reason the airlines tell us to put our masks on before we help others, right? Let us be tough enough to take good care of ourselves. This is our intention.
And so it is
So it is
our intention.
our intention.
Let us be intentional about being about it more so than talking about it, whatever it is. Let us follow the teachings of St. Francis of Assisi to preach the gospel at all times and use words only when necessary. Let us tell our stories in action and in impact and in lives that we have touched, knowing that those are the things that will live on long after our words are forgotten. This is our intention.
And so it is our intention.
Our intention.
All right, very good, very good. Finally, brothers and sisters today, it was a very nice change to our program. Let us be intentional about building castles in the air. Let us dream no small dreams that have no power to move the hearts of humankind. When we talk about our dreams, folks ought to look at us like we might be a little bit crazy. We ought to wonder if we're a little bit crazy. But then let us be committed to putting our belief in our dreams into the practice of building those dreams into reality so that one day somebody we already love, although we may never get to meet them, might rest in the shade of a tree that they did not plant, might drink from a well that they did not dig, and that they might warm themselves beside a fire that they did not build. This is our intention.
So it is
our intention.
We pray these and all things in the names of both our ancestors and our unborn grandchildren. Amen, Ashe, Namaste, and so it is. All right.
All right.
Thank you all.
Hey, could I offer